Excellencies, business representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon part of the Business Blast Strategic Forum. The first afternoon panel, entitled India and Southeast Europe, will try to explore business opportunities between India and Central and South Europe and the potential of enhancing business interaction between India and Slovenia. The ensuing panel, Startup New Technologies, will be devoted to the role of technological innovations. On this opportunity, I would like to express a warm welcome to our guests and friends from India, High Representatives of the Indian Government, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Confederation of Indian Industry, the President and members of the recently established Indian-Slovenian Business Club in New Delhi, as well as the members of the Slovenian Indian Business Club in Ljubljana, along with other business people and media representatives from India, Slovenia, the countries of Central Europe and Southeast Europe. I would furthermore like to express my sincere gratitude to Indian Ambassador in Ljubljana, Mr. Sarjević Chakravarti, Shukriya, Mr. Ambassador, and Slovenian Ambassador in New Delhi, Ms. Darja Baudaš-Kurat, najlepša hvala, ambasadorka, for their active participation and support in preparing this meeting. It is with great pleasure that I can now invite our moderator, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, consulting editor at Business World magazine India, to introduce the keynote speaker and the panelists. Mr. Sharma, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. Dobar dan. I'd like to invite Dr. Ernest Petric, former President of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Slovenia, and of course the former Ambassador of Slovenia to India, to begin his keynote address. And that will set the stage for all of us to have a very vibrant discussion on how to bring the region and an emerging economy like India much closer together. Sir, please.
Thank you. Well, let me first excuse myself because I was sitting at the lunch and I didn't look at my watch, so I was a little bit late. But it's, ladies and gentlemen, dear ambassadors, both of the crucial countries in this context, and all the other guests, let me say that it is a pleasure to have, shall I say, one of the meetings with India at this panel. Because when I was in India more than 20 years ago, ambassador of the former state of Yugoslavia, this country has tremendously fascinated me. And I still consider myself involved in India. I admire India, I follow India, I like India. So I was honored when I was asked to say a few words at this gathering. I'm of course not a businessman. If I ever am involved in a business, my private business, I always come out as a loser. So with business, I don't want to have much to do. I am maybe a little bit more capable in some other matters. But I was asked to say a few words as a kind of background for the discussions of the eminent businessmen and business people here in the panel, as a kind of ground, shall I say, for their discussion. In my contribution to this panel, I will limit myself to three basic remarks only, which are based on my experiences as the ambassador of former Yugoslavia to India and Nepal. And also, it was in the late 80s and in the early 90s, long ago. And of course, my remarks are also based on my consistent follow-up of the developments on the subcontinent and of the developments also in Central and Southeastern Europe. I got somehow poisoned with it because when I was in our ministry, foreign ministry, Secretary of State, State Secretary, main preoccupation of mine was also the Southeast, which was at that time a very acute topic. As I said, I will limit myself to 3 remarks. The first, the historic backgrounds for the contemporary and future relations between Central and Eastern Europe and the subcontinent, India in particular. Second, existing possibilities and opportunities for cooperation. And third, a short look on long-term geostrategic outlook for future relations. Concerning historic background, it is particularly interesting to expose the cooperation between the former non-aligned partners, Yugoslavia and India. This period has been marked by unusually extensive political cooperation between the two. Nehru's India and Tito's Yugoslavia were close partners within the NAM in spite of the differences in their domestic political structures. On the one party, non-democratic political system in Yugoslavia, and the multi-party democracy in India. Also, the two were close in their approaches to main problems of the world in the period from approximately 1960 to the breakup of Yugoslavia in 1991. This close alliance was often demonstrated also when diversities within the NAM occurred. The friendship between the two states has spread also among people on both sides, in a friendship and mutual trust among politicians, business persons, people of arts, simple people. My memories of conversations with people of that time, like Prime Minister V.P. Singh, Prime Minister Chandrasekhar, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, Minister Aiki Gujral, and also Narasimha Rao and others, with business persons like then chairman of the FICCI, Ronak Singh, like members of the families Birla, Tata, and many others, with Indian people of culture like writer Kushwant Singh, composer Ravi Shankar, dancers Shona Narayan, Sonal Mansingh, and many others. They clearly confirmed and proved deep friendship between Indians and Yugoslavia. I dare to say that Yugoslavia and its people were probably most liked and trusted European people among Indians, but also in Nepal and Sri Lanka. My last visit to India 2 years ago has proven me that these feelings are still alive and could still be a solid ground also for the future cooperation. This is true also vice versa. In successor states of former Yugoslavia, but also in the rest of Southeast and Central Europe, India and other countries of the subcontinent are seen not only as an extremely fascinating part of the world, but also close in political ideas based on principles of multi-party democracy, free market, economy, and in particularly multicultural, multi-religious, and multilinguistic traditions. There is also a rich tradition in economic cooperation. In particular, economic cooperation with India included, besides traditional trade, also such things as construction of ships for Indian commercial navy, trade in sophisticated military goods and know-how, delivery of rails for Indian Railway, construction of energy production entities, and also cooperation, intense cooperation, in science and technology, and also in culture. The trade only between Yugoslavia and India in those days, in the early 90s, amounted to more than $500 million of US dollars, and there was, as an example, in India, only by one Slovenian trade company, Intertrade, 6 representatives on the subcontinent. Let me now turn shortly to the next remark. Around 1990, it was spoken in of India's economic potential as of a tiger in the cage. Now the tiger is free. It's out. The cage were all kinds of restrictions limiting free market economy, limiting foreign investment to India, bureaucratic rigidity, all typical for a kind of semi-socialist economy, and also the corruption was there. After 1990, India started to liberalize its economy. This process was not simple, but led to spectacular growth of India's economy and to innovative strength. The potential of India's economic power is illustrated by its rapidly growing GDP, including also GDP per capita, its exports of manufactured goods, also high-tech goods, services, and India's investments abroad. What seems to me particularly important is India's endeavor to promote its innovative strengths, establishing the Department of Science and Technology in the Ministry for Organizing, Coordinating, and Promoting Science and Technology, the setting up of the National Innovation Foundation, the launching of Technology Promotion, Development, and Utilization Program, the Micro Venture Innovative Fund, the permanent growth of India's science budget at the yearly rate of 25% in the last years, the launching of the concept, which seems to me extremely interesting, of the frugal innovation, which reflects India's specific approach to improve her innovative strengths, and last but not least, the establishment of several elite faculties and universities, including elite law schools. I have visited one of them. All this indicates the successful long-term development of India towards a modern, innovative economy and society. This similar could also be said for Central and Eastern Europe. This part of Europe has faced tremendous changes after 1990, which opened the way for their economies and societies to grow into innovative economies capable to invest in the subcontinent and to absorb India's investment. At this point, let me mention two special advantages of Slovenia concerning the relations with the subcontinent. The first is Slovenia's geographical location. In the old times, before World War I, the port of Trieste and its Slovenian littoral was, after opening of the Suez Channel, one of the main entries of goods from Orient, including the subcontinent, to Central Europe in particular. Now there is also Koper, a new modern, efficient port, the entry of goods from the subcontinent all the way up to Vienna, Prague, Krakow, Budapest, and even Kiev, not to mention Slovenia. This is, according to my understanding, a strategic asset for both Central Europe and the subcontinent. It should be ambitiously developed, possibly in cooperation of both sides. And there is also the so-called ICPE. Since mid-70s of the last century, an AM institution to promote efficiency of state-owned enterprises. Through its educational programs, around 2,000 participants, mainly government officials, most of them from the subcontinent, have gone through these educational programs. The ICP has through years, in fact, developed into a joint India-Slovenian institution. It could be a significant asset for future cooperation between the subcontinent and the Central and Southeastern Europe. It should be ambitiously developed into a think tank promoting cooperation by educational and research programs, by consulting and helping in establishing contacts, by dissemination of information from both sides. In short, it should become a channel from India, subcontinent, to the Central and Southeastern Europe, and consequently also to EU, and of these parts of Europe to India and to the subcontinent. There is also a geopolitical dimension concerning the relations between Central and Southeastern Europe and the subcontinent. The future world is to be a multipolar world. Without going into debate how many poles, 5, 6, 7, and which states or regions will be poles of power and wealth in the future multipolar international community, it is clear that EU, Europe, and India, including subcontinent, will be among them. There exists a solid base for future cooperation between EU and India, between Europe and subcontinent. Common democratic values, respect for human rights, market economy, and also absence of serious disputes and clashes of long-term interests, which could obstruct the India-EU cooperation, a solid base for their future long-term partnership. Countries of Central and Southeast Europe already are, and will be even more, a significant part of the EU, whose influence in the EU grows. Their traditional links with the subcontinent, with India in particular, not marked by colonialism in the past, might significantly contribute to future cooperation between Europe and India subcontinent. The relations between Central and Southeastern Europe with India and with the whole subcontinent will, of course, now and in the future, depend on concrete activities of partners on both sides, on their creative ideas and on given opportunities. I believe that deliberations of this honorable panel will be a step into that direction. Thank you very much.
Dr. Petric, thank you very much for a very inspiring setting of stage for our discussion, and your deep experience in India is very well reflected, and your association with all the heads of state and prime ministers in India, I'm sure you come away with deep and fantastic experiences. And of course, you know, and I'm sure the audience knows that we are now in a new era of a new leadership in the country, and after a little bit of slowdown in India, which I think has disappointed everybody across the world, not least the 1.2 billion Indians, we are hoping for a slightly better life ahead of us. And here the private sector, both the domestic and the global private sector, we are looking for, and the government and the new administration is really keen to make sure that the private enterprise from across the world comes together in India and ensures that we grow very well together. We have a fantastic panel, and they have been introduced, so I'm not going to take your time in doing that. But let me begin by inviting Mr. Emil Ziska, General Director and Chairman of Directors of Litostroy Power of Slovenia, to talk to us, because you know he has worked in India, and he was saying, "Sir, please, you can speak right from there." And he was telling me that he came to India when in 1975 for the first time. So you know, maybe I'd request you to talk about the difference between 1975 and 2014 in India.
So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I was introduced as an employee, as a general manager of Litostroy Power, but I have to say that I came to Slovenia 3 months ago from a Czech company, Czech Adeblansko Engineering, which is daughter company of Litostroy Power. But anyway, both companies are involved in hydro business, in production of hydromechanical equipment for power plants. So, as was mentioned, my first contact with Indian business and with India was approximately in the year 75. Those days, Czech Adeblansko supplied to India equipment for several power stations, as for example, Kadana and Tilari power station. Those days it was very easy because all business was done and was covered by the government. It was done under so-called clearing business. So we in the factory didn't take care about the payment conditions, about the payment guarantees. Moreover, we have a representation in India, Skoda India, very famous company, which was established already in the year 1930 or something like that. So we had a very good background for our business. We just took care about the production in time, production in quality, and we received money after the business were finished and everything was okay. Thanks to this, there was a good business not only in hydro or in energy sector, but Czech Republic supplied those days several, maybe hundreds of investment projects as sugar mills, factories for machine tools, forgings, tractors, motorcycles, etc., etc. Also, brewery should be mentioned because it's also important.
That's a favorite industry.
Yeah.
But you know, in 2014, is it better now? Because the reason I requested you to share your experience is because you have done business in India and not just survived, you've grown.
After the year 93, the clearing was cancelled, and now we were faced to take care about ourselves. And we faced a lot of problems. And I have to say, to do business in India, it's not easy. On one side, India is a very perspective country for business because has big opportunities, mainly in hydro, because hydro energy potential is very large. But on opposite, the discussion and negotiation in India are not easy. For example, according to some information, pre-contract negotiation in India take approximately 400 days time. It takes a lot of time to finalize the contract. And also after the contract is concluded, there are many changes which prolongate the date of termination. Also, it's necessary to do business in India. It's not possible to do it directly from Europe. You have to either establish your branch office or to have your production facility or to have some reliable and good Indian partner. We were successful in this. We have, I can say, not only, but have at the time being 2-3 main partners, because India is a very large country and it's not possible to do business from one place. And also, to be competitive in India, it's necessary to transfer the technology for production to India and to produce as much as possible directly in India.
Right. Mr. Ziska, I'll ask you to pause here and keep that thought, because I want to bring in Mr. Hinduja here. And Mr. Hinduja, as most of you know, has been living and working in Europe, but his empire, if I may say so, sir, spreads across the globe, and you have been very active in India, and you have played an important role in bringing Europe and India together. The concerns that he's raised, there is still a lot of problem. Do you see scope for that improving? And do you see a personality like yours in helping in changing the environment for the better?
Oh, it's working?
Yes, it's working now.
Yeah. Well, I will mention to you that this is experience which our friend Mr. Ziska has mentioned. But as you see that the world is changing, the technologies are changing, the minds of the people are changing. India is not the same what used to be in the past. There has been a lot of transformations, and the systems have brought into a fast track, because we have gone also through the similar problems in our power sector. We have about 1,040 megawatt power project, which has a thermal coal-based power project. We have windmills, and we also had a foreign collaboration and partnership. As my father used to always say, if you want to grow, you have to grow in partnership. So technology transfer in India is must, and to have a good partner in India is also the must, because the local know-how. For example, if I want to start a business in Slovenia, if I don't have a local partner here or a local know-how over here, it will be very difficult for me to run the business. So we have different partners all around the world where we try to use the local know-how to go into it. And as a Hinduja group is a very multinational group globally, we always like to welcome the countries like Slovenia, because we see Slovenia has a lot of expertise and technologies available which can be used not in the modern cities. You have 500 million people in villages. The cost factor would be much economical and much more useful to get those villages modernized through the different technologies which can be manufactured in those part of the villages. As Mr. Ziska said, that he started hydropower in the place which was very hard for him to get through. But eventually he was successful. As they say, Rome is not built in a day, So we think that we will
And
have.
Rome was much smaller, sir.
Huh?
And Rome was much smaller than India.
One smaller than India. So I think that where there is a will, if you have a willingness and a will that one has to get into India, there is always a great opportunity. And now you see the whole world is focusing on India. They have compared China with India, but they find India much more comfortable, much more, because the language, everybody speaks English over there. So I would welcome Slovenia with the partnerships, with the scheme of technology and transfer, and especially the pension funds. They can come up in a big way because there is a huge opportunities which we'll see. And today, why Germany is successful with India? The largest partner in India in Europe is Germany. Our group was active in Czech Republic. We bought a company called Avia, which was a very famous investment, the vehicles we used to do that. But unfortunately, that plant has not gone through because we had a lot of difficult time going on over there. As you know, the Czech Republic, the political scene is not going on very well. We have oil now. We are distributing lubricant oils in Gulf brand. We own Gulf brand, purchased from the American companies. But we have now circulating all around the Europe, the Gulf lubricant brand. Another company is Houghton, which is another lube plant, which we are planning to expand in the East European countries, where this is the best technology of the lube used in steel mills and various automotive industries in Germany and other places. So bottom line is Slovenia and India can play a very important role. I see a great future for it.
Thank you very much, sir. You made the point, and both of you made the point about technology, and that's something I think India is known for. And I want to bring in Mr. Kapuria here, Mr. Deep Kapuria, who runs a very, very high technology company, and your company is, the name is self-evident. He's the chairman of the high-tech group. Why do we still think, Mr. Kapuria, that technology transfer has to be from Europe to India? Why can't it be from India to Southeast Europe? I'm sure there are synergies there also.
Absolutely right, Pranjal, and I did mention it in my interactions that
that was almost a technology failure, but it's worked.
That's why you did it.
I always say that things need to be fixed, and I did mention that in India we have pockets of excellence. We are living in two ages, more or less concurrently. And the concurrency is that we are still, parts of India is in the agrarian age, and parts of India is actually transforming itself and going to the fourth industrial revolution, not only the third. So, let's look at the auto sector, which I am from. We make world-class auto components as single source for the globe. We supply to Daimler in not only in Germany but in Japan, and this is the only facility outside of Daimler which makes transmission gears.
So, basically what it means is that products made in your company in India, components are in cars which are running across Europe.
Yes.
And just think about that, a few years ago nobody could imagine that a component made in India could be put into a car which would be used by German consumers.
Absolutely.
And that's such a big shift.
Not only that, we took a vision, say that can there be one component in every vehicle in the world which is stamped made in India? So, and it is very much there. And now you have our Prime Minister saying it. As a responsible citizen, we not only need to make it in India with zero defect, but zero impact. So India is in a state of transition, and you see this transition which is not a tandem activity, it's a parallel activity which is on. So like I said, it is pockets of excellence which you will see. Our manufacturing facility is Leeds Gold, which I would imagine that not too many companies even in Europe are there, with literally zero impact on the environment. So there is a lot of synergy which can happen in terms of transference either way. Today, Indian companies are mature enough to export their management. we have been introduced and we have indigenized Japanese management systems. Our company plans are not only JIPM, that's a TPM Excellence Award, but also have a Shingo Award, which means the deployment of Toyota production system. So it's not only about managing technology, is not only about managing the components, but it's also managing the shop floor. So there are lots which India has to contribute also. And I think if I just go in the reverse direction as well, that there would be niche technologies here, and there could be a synergy which could actually grow it to a much larger aspect. And the best way for success is to tie into a supply chain. It's worked all over the world, and that would be really something to look forward for.
Thank you, Mr. Kaburia. You know, the thought about technology is important, and I want to bring in Mr. Samo Hribar on this. You had the Chamber of Commerce here, sir. But, you know, I was visiting the Blade Castle this morning, and one of the displays is fascinating, which talks about the region of Kropa, which was known for making iron nails. And our guide was informing us how those nails were so specialized that almost all of the big cities in Western Europe, including Vienna, were built using those nails. So it was really an area, a focus on specialization and competitive advantage. So do you think such competitive advantage between Slovenia, specific industries, and India, can we work on identifying those and bringing them together? This one.
Thank you for the invitation. Yes, Slovenia has specialized in recent decades completely. First of all, the industry which had been produced in Kropa has gone. We closed down a lot of factories in that particular industries, but still we have a lot of niche technologies and niche industries throughout Slovenia, which at the moment perform quite well, and some of them also in India. Not to mention pharmaceutical industry, which is at the moment very strongly present also in India. But in addition to pharmaceutical industry, also the chemical industry is quite developed, and they produce, among others, also new materials, and there is also a lot of potential in all kinds of industry or markets, especially in automotive markets, automotive industry. But speaking about new technologies, I think that cooperation, which I expect in future time, would be that Slovenia needs a lot of qualified, specialized people in IT sector. Even though that we have very good faculties also in Slovenia, at the moment we have quite significant lack of competitive people with competencies in IT sector. So that's why I expect that maybe even in this sector we could expect cooperation between Slovenian and Indian companies.
Thank you. That means you're welcoming a lot of IT students and young technology people to
No,
Slovenia.
I think that Slovenia could be also a hub for Indian IT companies to enter to European Union. Even though that we are a small country, but we used to say that in the circle of 600 kilometers, with no barriers, no customs, live more than 100 the most rich people in European Union. So this is our internal market, and that's why I expect that Slovenia deliberately open itself to foreign companies, to establish here companies, and with them also that we will get not only students but experts in this particular field in Slovenia.
Thank you very much. I want to ask Mr. Chandar Verma about some of the thoughts. You've been working in very difficult markets, Mr. Verma, across the world. He's worked in Middle East, he's worked in Africa. So I would think that working in this part of the world would not be terribly difficult for you. What kind of potential and industries do you see where Indian companies and companies from Southeast Europe can work very well together?
Okay, I was just reading that last year the bilateral trade between Slovenia and India was about $273 million, 273 million euros. Definitely that's very little. We can do much better than that. And there are a lot of industries we can work together. But what I see is that we still do not have a direct connectivity between India and Slovenia. Even if we have to come by air, we have to go through some other city, some other country and come. Even if goods have to come by ship, they have to transship somewhere. So I think that's one of the areas that we need to look at.
So this is really an appeal to the two excellencies sitting here who represent India and Slovenia in each other's countries to do something about it, right? So,
I mean, if you have a direct connectivity, then I'm sure the trade would definitely get better also with time. Why Slovenia cannot be used as a port for containers to send them all over Central Europe, I really don't know at the moment. Because it's my first visit here, I've just been here 2-3 days, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. But definitely in Slovenia, in India, we need to make Slovenia more visible. I mean, Slovenia is not that very well known, even though everything's being done by the embassy there, but we need to make it more visible. And I'm sure there are a lot of different industries that can work together. I have met a lot of people.
Is it
here.
just about Slovenia, sir? I mean, what about the region? Because it's about
Even
many
in the
countries,
region.
many countries who can
Okay.
be seen as a gateway and as an expanded market.
Like I was talking with His Excellency from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now they've got airports which are not fully utilized. So we have to see how we can utilize them. Maybe for cargo, maybe for passengers, maybe people can come directly. So I mean, it's for the whole region basically. We have to see connectivity. If it's better, you'll have better trade. But I was talking to someone in skills. I mean, there are a lot of skills that you have here, which are required in India. There are many skills that India can give here. So that's one area you can do business together. The country and the area is beautiful. And in India, we make many movies. So it's lovely areas to do that. You could get people here, do that. Education-wise, I would say it's good. People from here can go for business, for finance, management, things like that. Difficult for skills to go to India because skills is something that has to be done practically and taught by hand. And in these countries, generally people are educated till school level. In India, most of the people who learn skills, they are not even educated up till school level. And then you have to teach them skills in different languages. So that may be a slight problem in that. But otherwise, I think a lot can be done on the trade front. Definitely.
Right. No, you mentioned that it's again. I want to pick up a little point which I heard and learned this morning about medical and health tourism, which started in the 19th century in the Bled area with Arnold Rickley. And I thought it would be a great idea for a lot of people to get, a medical aid in India and come back and recuperate in the region like Bled, because it'll be a perfect combination of getting medical facilities and then recuperation later. So, those kind of innovative thinking is required. And that's why, I want to ask Mr. Michele Orzan. He's the president of EUCHAM, European Chamber, and he's from... he's running the business out of Hungary. It's a completely new chamber of commerce run by companies from Europe. And what I found fascinating, Mr. Orzan, what you were telling me earlier is that it's not about European Union. You are much bigger. You represent the entire continent. So how can India, which is a subcontinent, work so well with you? You have an entrepreneurial background, but now you're running a chamber of industry. What is the innovative thinking which is required to get companies to work together?
Thank you. So why do we need India? So we speak about Europe and India. So we are going towards a multipolar world in the next decades, and we need a balanced multipolar world. We cannot have a weak India or strong China. We have a balanced, multipolar world, and India today, the second biggest country in the world, represents the 12th economy if we measure in dollars, but the third or fourth economy if we put purchasing power parity into consideration. So, and there's no reason to be the second biggest economy in the future. And why Europe can learn a lot of India, and then I would say where can India learn a lot from Europe? First of all, when we speak about the European Union and the future, hopefully, United States of Europe, we can take also some experiences of India, which puts together 29 states with different languages, with different ethnicities, all together, and it's now the biggest democracy in the world. So we are looking with very big interest to India. And India has something that we in Europe, we don't have it. I always remember, every time I think at our events, when the Indian ambassador takes the floor and speaks, and we are listening to his way, to his spiritual way of taking into consideration all the aspects that when we are doing business and speaking about our and Indian people has a holistic approach to the life, much what we really miss in Europe, and we have to learn also in business. And I love the idea of Indians and how to take into consideration the role of the nature. And he will arrive why we have to respect the nature when doing business. We have to find a balance between business and sustainability.
Mr. Ozan, if I could just ask you, there was a very interesting point which Mr. Verma made on Slovenia being not well known or Southeast Europe not being well known in India. How well is India known in this part of the world? What do you know India for? Is there enough recognition of what India can do, or do you only worry about millions of people coming in and taking away the jobs?
Well, a balanced, multipolar world will also solve these problems. Well, of course, in the view of Europe, India has a lot of issues. Here we brought usually all the qualitative thoughts that we can have about anything should be always supported by quantitative measures, because we can gain a better overview on the issues, and especially rankings, because they take into consideration also the opportunity for improvement and where we are. And I brought here 4 rankings which are show that India has a lot to work, for instance, in ease of doing business. What we saw in Europe, we find that the European countries here on the top, and we found India at the bottom.
That's the ease of business doing doing business
World
report,
Bank,
right?
yes, exactly.
Correct.
We find India in the position 134 today. So after 20 years of
But shouldn't entrepreneurs love a challenge like this?
yes, that's opportunities.
Sure. So Mr. Kapuria wants to add to this.
If I can just add to this, because we have taken this initiative up in CII as a major initiative along with the government, that's the Secretary DIPP, and we'll be working together for doing ease of business. But let me tell you, this survey is skewed. The parameters are skewed. This is a survey which has been just done in Bombay, and you're talking about land acquisition and stuff like that and the price of land. So it's quite skewed. Although I'm not defending it that to do business in India is easy, but the way that the parameters have been put and also measured is also not correct. And we are putting together, along with a knowledge partner, KPMG, and soon we will come with the right parameters of how to view it. But at the end of the day, we are making sure that doing ease of business, and that's even an agenda with our Prime Minister.
That's true. But I have another related question. Perhaps, Mr. Hinduja, you can answer that. Yes. How easy is it for Indian companies to work in Europe? What is the ease of doing business for Indian companies in Europe?
Well, you see, I think the Indian companies to work with Europe is that they have to find their sector, which sector would be useful and which sector they would be interested. For example, if they come and find a suitable partner over here, and this partner is the one who has a lot of R&D, who has a lot of research, lot of expertise in this field, maybe the Indian person, he may not have that expertise which they could offer to India. So that there are, for example, now you told me there are many plants have closed down in Slovenia. Now these plants could be useful for India. One can transfer and either take these plants to India, put the plants over there, or can restart these plants over here so that it can able to bring the new sectors of both the areas can, coordinate for a win-win situation. So I would suggest that today the World Bank and IMF and United Nations, they are thinking about three sectors, PPP, private-public partnership. Now when you have this private-public partnership concept is growing, it's a new concept. In the past, you never had this concept. So there are new ways, there are new strategies, new concepts are coming up. And with these new ideas and the new concepts, things will change. And that is why India today, in last 20 years, if you see, how many changes have taken place in India? Incredible. I'm saying if you go deep into the proper analyzing, that what are the hospitalities, hotels have been growing, what is the infrastructure growth has taken place, what is the banking sector which has grown place. Take the banking sector in Slovenia. Banking sector is in a very bad shape. Here where the Indians can come and give the knowledge of the banking sector by giving new technology, what they did in these last 20 years. So there is a lot of things between India and Slovenia can take place, provided there should be a proper think tank. And this think tank can only happen when few economists of Slovenia can sit together and work together and have a think tank programs between the two countries. I'm sure there is a lot of business one can do together.
Mr. Ziska, sure.
I'd just like to supplement
Yeah.
about this issue of doing business in Europe. And again, I'm coming from the perspective of auto components. And many of our friends, and we included, have acquired certain companies in Europe. And we are finding it going is pretty tough. I tell you.
We need World Bank to do a survey and ranking of that also.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody would want to buy a company in France. No way. I'll not touch a company with a large barge pole. Anyway, we did the mistake of buying a company in Italy, a small company, and I think that we need to move out of there. We can't expand there. There are huge issues. The people who, very close friends of mine who have acquired company in Germany, he's still struggling. You cannot transfer people. They have 3 plants, and you can't transfer one person from one location to the north of the country. That's it. You have to, and if you fire him, you have to pay through your nose. So it's quite amazing. It's not that everything is hunky-dory.
So basically, you're saying this ease of doing business should not be a hurdle, because once you want to do something, you can do it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you need to learn the ropes. I'm not complaining about it, because if you are addressing a market, the challenges come along with it. That's how the opportunities are generated. We can't sort of talk about the challenges only and not talk about the opportunities. They need to be balanced.
I'd like Mr. Jiska and Mr. Shriba to react to this. Sir, would you talk about what would you suggest and how can Indian companies do better business in this part of the world? You understand India from 1975 onwards, and you live and work here. What can be done?
First of all, I would like to say that we don't see our Indian partner as only cheap labor cost. It was in the past, because nowadays I read somewhere that, for example, in Silicon Valley, every 4th employee comes from India. So the level of education in India grows very, very, very rapidly. So our possibility to make good business with Indian partners is to transfer technology, to transfer high technology to Indian companies which are able to produce according our engineering the products, and to be competitive not only in India, because we have several examples that we compete and we were successful together with Indian partners also in foreign country, not only in Indian itself.
Thank you. Mr. Ribal.
Unfortunately, the whole Europe is more and more incompetitive with the rest of the world, speaking about conditions for business. So we are too rigid, sometimes too slow, and of course Europe is too expensive for every kind of business. That's why also Indian companies could have all around Europe a lot of problems. But on the other side, Europe is not equal. Speaking about Europe, it's quite difficult because conditions for business in different parts are completely different. Unfortunately, in Slovenia, conditions are much more rigid as, for example, in Slovakia or in some other countries. So establishing business there is much easier, and that's why we have there thousands of foreign investments and very few in Slovenia. But in addition to all that, I think that the easiest way, as for Slovenian companies in India, as for Indian companies in Europe, is to make a strong contract with domestic companies, with domestic partners. You need quite a lot of time for this, but at the end is worth of money. So if someone from Slovenia, for example, managed to find a good partner in India, that's the most reliable way how to make and how to conclude and develop business in India. And the same, I think, it's for Indian companies. At the moment in Slovenia, for example, there is a lot of companies which are looking for new owners, for investors. These companies have a very good position in the market, but very bad situation concerning financing structure. So there is a potential, and it's not only Slovenia which suffer from this kind of problems.
But so how can we bridge this gap? How can you get the best for both the worlds, where you bring skills and finances from a country like India, and you have a deep investment in research and development, which perhaps Indian companies don't have enough, and the country's research and development is much lower than in your country. So what can be done to bring them together?
Just as you say, bring them together. We should use these opportunities to cooperate, to meet with each other, to build network among us. Tomorrow we will organize in Ljubljana a business conference with B2B meetings between companies from India and Slovenia. And we need such contacts more and more. Then we should visit each other. It takes time to get involved in such processes, and I think that we should take this into account, that we need time and a lot of communications and cooperations before we could count that the business is really going on.
Thank you. Mr. Verma, you talked about, he says we should meet more often, but there are no flights. So you made that point already. What needs to be done to reduce the level of misunderstanding, increase the level of trust and faith that joining hands together is beneficial for both? Because I think there is not enough knowledge, and whatever knowledge is there is perhaps not the perfect information.
No, I think like everywhere else, you have to have more interaction. You'll have to have more people coming over to India. You'll have to have more businessmen from India coming here.
But what about fiscal incentives? I mean, does that play a role? Tax breaks, specific bilateral agreements?
I mean, eventually when you want to go into business, you're going to look at everything. So definitely tax incentives, breaks.
So do we have enough of that between India and Southeast Europe?
We have a double taxation treaty that was signed last year, so, but I'm not very sure on that.
Whether it's effective enough or not so far?
I wouldn't be able to speak on that at the moment.
But you do feel that, the companies have to talk to each other more
No,
often?
they definitely have to talk to each other, because then only you will find out, what one can give, what one can take, how much help each can give them.
So whose responsibility is this to make them meet each other? Is it the governments? Is it the chambers of commerce? Is it leaders like you?
I think it's all of us. It's the government, it's the business groups, it's the chambers, all of us.
Is enough,
Forums.
okay. Mr. Orzan, is enough being done?
Gandhi once said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And we have learned a lot from India in the past, and we will learn a lot in the future centuries. So India now, I think, and thank you for correcting or completing my ranking before, because there are a lot of other indexes that take into consideration a lot of other measures, like in Bhutan, where the National Happiness Index, your neighbors developed this kind of index, where, of course, India ranks much better. So here,
we are happy anyway, so it doesn't.
I have another ranking, which India does not deserve this place. So this is the Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International, where our countries in Southern and Eastern Europe, they're all around 50, 60, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, Slovakia, Montenegro, Macedonia, all together. And then we found India 94. So, and we know that this is a big issue in India. But again, depend of us. We should not allow the other people, the governments, find excuses why the corruption is so widespread and we cannot do business. It depends of us. If you do not accept a rotten world around you, well, in this case, the world will follow you. You should not accept the world ruling you. You have to make the changes around the world. And we companies have this duty.
No, that's true, because a lot of the corruption issues in India are because of the FDI and the big global companies which have entered India. So I think it works both ways, because global corporations, and there have been studies by Transparency International which show that whenever a country is opened and FDI comes in, they make the first effort to undermine local rules and regulations. So I think we need to address that very well said. Mr. Hinduja, you are a good bridge for both worlds. The issue of responsibility of bringing people together, ensuring that business partnerships happen, whose responsibility is that? What needs to be done now? Because I want to be constructive and look at what needs to be done now in the future. So what would be the 3 steps you would recommend? Because you're seen as a titan of industry. What are the 3 steps you would recommend for ensuring that things improve in the next 4 years?
Well, I would say the private sector, the track record, if you see, of the world, the private sector has played a very important role in the development of any part of the world or any trade which has taken place. So first step is the private sector of each country has to play a very important role to get into the sector of any country, which we have been doing for the last 100 years. My father used to, trade with those days when there was no communication, no transport, no nothing, with all around the world. He used to deal with China, he used to deal with Japan, he used to deal with Britain, Afghanistan, Iran, all these places in Britain, in America. So the area was the private sector in any country you go. They have played a very important role in bringing up the trade between the different countries and different programs and different industries and different sectors in different areas where the democracy, where any part of the world which has taken place. So first step is Slovenia, private sector should join hands together, make it a plan to get into India, and this is the way one can go. The government will have to follow accordingly.
Government usually follows.
Usually follow. Normally, always government follows the private sector.
Right.
All economies of the world, if you see, whether the record of the World Bank, whether take the record of any other, export promotions have taken place, private sector are the key figure of the world who has done this whole. Then coming to the villages. Take India, for example. There are 500 million people in the villages. If Slovenia says, okay, I want to come in India, I want to adopt these villages for 1 million people, they can develop 1 million people villages into new Slovenia over there. They can bring in, yeah. They can
We'd
bring
love
in
to see 1 million people,
1 million
Indian, 1 million
people,
Indians speaking
1
Slovenian.
million people can say, okay, this is Slovenia has done this for us.
Correct.
You can create an infrastructure, you can create a hydropower, you can create a pharma business, you can create whatever you want. Banking sector, financial sector, and plus you will train those villagers, those engineers, those skill power. You know the power of India, the skill power of 5-year-old boy or 10-year-old boy. A friend of mine went into India in a village, a car got spoiled. There was no garage over there. So this young boy of 10-year-old boy came in. He said, what's wrong with your car? He said, this is the price. I said, don't worry, I'll fix it up. He goes under it. Within half an hour, car was in order. So this guy was so impressed. He says, 10-year-old boy in village who can able to fix up this car, what is the future of the country can be?
No, but I think World Bank should include this kind of statistics also.
You see?
Let me tell you, this was even true for a BlackBerry. So
This is a quoted incident that of a journalist, a BlackBerry, which was his lifeline, died in a village. And he actually went to an auto shop where a child of about 13-year-old fixed that BlackBerry and got it going. So, there's this huge aspirations which are akin to even the rural children, and below 15 years of age is about 350 million of them. So it's a huge, huge aspirational youngsters who are now globally connected, and they're going to get connected more and more. So you're reaching close to about 750 million cell phones. Out of them, 50% are smartphones. So there is this huge connectivity and traction, which is excitement, which is there. And the part which was just said that, look at that, smart city. Can you contribute to the smart city cooperatively?
Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me.
Sure.
I just stopped.
Please, please.
Now, you see, I tell you one more other thing. You see, today, you take example of a place like Japan. Now, you won't believe that the Japan has moved into India by giving credit line from their pension funds. 45 years credit line they have given to India for doing the corridor business. They have come in, they have created their whole colony in Delhi. If you go in Delhi, you will find all the Japanese people are living there. You won't find one Indian over there. And I was amazed to see that they have got a Japanese schools, they have Japanese restaurants, they have Japanese golf club, they have everything Japan. So they consider Japan as the second home. And they say, we want to bring in technology, we want to bring in everything or the other, and they have an open hand. So those days are past where they say, oh, we don't get permission for this, we don't get permission for this, we don't get permission for this. Take, for example, place like Gujarat, where the Prime Minister Modi, who was there. He has changed the whole state of Gujarat. The GDP of Gujarat has grown up. It was the first state in India. This is why he has got an opportunity to come to Delhi now, be the Prime Minister, to change the whole country's, the GDP in the way he has done in one state in Gujarat. So I would suggest that the steps which we have to take around, the technology, what Slovenia has, somebody should make a research on that what are the technologies Slovenia has? What are the technology East Europe has? And if you make a proper research on that, believe me, all these technologies what you have over here, the East Europe will become like a paradise. India will become your home, and what you can benefit from that, because there is a lot of requirement over there. People will come from America, or people will come from a company like Smart. The Smart example, my friend Mr. Das, who is sitting over here, he has done a tremendous programs over here and getting into the technology over there, and he's planning to take this technology to India now. So in the similar manner, there are several programs in India which can be come up in a big way. And I'm willing to be partners with anybody
Excellent.
who wants to come in.
But you know, that's a great point, sir. I want to bring in some questions from the audience, because
Yes.
you talked about a mini Japan, there's a mini Korea.
So you know where to find the check.
Absolutely.
No. Moment. Check is they have the money. The Europe has the money. You know, they have the other day EU. You know, the European Bank is not here. EEB not there. They have committed so much money to the East European countries, but they have not used that money.
I think the problem is that we should have
They have
more
not
bankers in
committed
the
that
whole.
money.
I think lack of banks is always a problem.
East European banks
Right,
have given so much money for East India, Europe, you know, but they have no commitments have been made to this, and money has not been consumed.
Correct.
If you create this program, link with India, you can consume all the money and take the benefit, create jobs, create employments, all the problem will be solved.
The bankers are never there when you need them, so I think we need to address that issue. Let's take some questions from the floor, questions and thoughts. And you know, quick points. So you talked about mini Japan. There's a mini Korea. There are areas where people just eat and talk about Korea. And of course, there's one part of India which is Goa, which is half Russian now. So if you ever holiday there, you can speak Russian in Goa. Can we get some questions? And we have some mics coming up in the front, please. Yes. Yes, sir. Please. I'm bringing the mic to you. Sir. Please do introduce yourself for the people who don't know you.
Okay, my name is Ranu Das. I'm from India. There's some very interesting points that have been made on this panel. Rating, fundamentals, way to get there, way to cooperate. So very interesting. Well, here's a guy who has invested in Slovenia. And I have a partner who has invested in India. I think this is a very rare two-way investment. Yeah? It's a very rare two-way investment. Where do I rate? How did I get here? What is the prospect? I'll come to that a little later. Well, I have invested in the US as well. I have invested in Singapore as well. I've invested in the UK as well. How do I rate these opportunities? How do I rate these difficulties? Mr. Hinduja has a huge experience all over the world, as does Mr. Kapuria as well. But do I rate Singapore as number one in the world, which is on that index as number one in the world? There are difficulties in Singapore. We are investing in the US. There are difficulties in the US. The statutory processes, the reporting systems in the US are. I thought India was crazy, but the US is even more. So how do I rate these places? You rate them by fundamentals. Where is the fundamental correct? That's it. Then you have opportunities, as you said, and the difficulties come with it. It's the baggage that comes with it. So, Slovenia. I came here 4 years ago, quite by accident. I had a navigator who was also in the room. There. I came without any intent, and I was taken around the country. And today we have a few joint ventures here. One is very good. One hasn't happened. Where's the average? How do I rate this country? I cannot. I rate the fundamentals. There's technology here which I can use, which has application in my country and the rest of Asia. And that's the fundamental. What is the fundamental for my Slovenian partner? Well, there's a market, huge fundamental. Not only in India, but globalizing. I think this is the fundamentals. The opportunities and the baggages come with that fundamental. I've been doing this for how many years now? I think 3 years. And you know what? The intent is to continue doing this. I have looked at many countries in Slovenia and continuing to do so. So here's the first person experience of Slovenia. Thank you.
If I can, I have
Sure, please.
one more ranking, let's say. But in this case, India ranks much, much better. So we have here unemployment. And unemployment, you all know the problems that we have in Europe with the young people. There's some countries, I see here Macedonia 31% and Greece 24%, which is not true. It is much higher. Young people, over 50% of the young people in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, in Greece, over 50% have no job. Well, what can we learn from India? Because instead, we said in India, which is in fact the whole Asia, there's micro companies created by people. If you have no job, you start doing something. You created even, your neighbors created even the microfinance for financing the new jobs. So this we can learn from Asia and from India. In Europe, in fact, we have to learn again, because Europe was not this, was not behaving this way many years ago. Probably we are using or abusing the social net. In my own country, in Italy, we have people at 35, guys at 35 years old, still staying at home. This doesn't happen in India.
But Mr. Orson, very good point you made, but what Mr. Das is saying is that we have to go beyond the statistics and go for experience. Embed yourself in each other's countries, spend some time there, and then perhaps you appreciate each other better. Because if you just look at statistics, then then we have a lot of economists fighting, which doesn't really serve anybody. Right, yeah. Because as you said here, one joint venture worked and the other one didn't work, which means that he has 0% success rate. So it's absolutely nothing happening there. But can we get some more thoughts and questions, please?
Hello. I'm Niranjan Seshadri. I work for a Slovenian company, Collector Group, and I'm Indian, but I now live here, I work here, and I can tell you my story a little bit. So I was studying in the US, I worked in the US, and then I moved to India. I started to work in India, and then, my dad was the first ambassador here. I must say this is my connection to Slovenia. And so my dad said, Niranjan, why don't you come here for a vacation? I said, come on, Dad. India is nice. He said, no, Niranjan, come here. Venice is just 2 hours away. I said, okay, fine. So then I thought we'd spend 10 days in Italy, maybe a couple of days in Slovenia. It was the opposite. And I fell in love with this country. So I started to study here. And then after I finished studying, because I did my MBA here, I was going to go back to India, to work in India. And then I got an offer from this company. So the president of the company interviewed me, Mr. Petric, maybe some of you know him. And so, I was young, a bit naive. I went for the interview. It was me, the president, the head of sales, and one more director. I was not prepared for the interview. So Mr. Petric, our president, he introduced me to the company. I didn't even know what the company was making. I was not an engineer, and the company is a core engineering company. And then, at the end of the interview, he said, you got the job, you will start on this date. We pay conservative, we'll start. Then I said, but you didn't ask me any questions. He said, okay, I have 2 questions for you. I said, what are the 2 questions? He said, do you know where India is on the world? I said, yes. He said, you think you can do business with Indians? I said, I've never done business in my life before. He said, good enough answer, you got the job. What am I trying to say with this?
That's the ease of doing business, right?
That's one point. But I also believe that Slovenian companies are willing, are open to Indians or anybody to come here and work. And not only that,
what does your company do, if you could explain to us?
We are into automotive components, we are into household products, and we are also into industrial technology, hydroelectric power, and as well as we also make machines and tooling for companies. But our core business is commutators. Commutator is basically welded onto the armature to make the motor move. Right. And Collector today is the world's largest commutator manufacturer. So, I think everybody's car here probably has our product in it. But what I'm trying to say is I've also moved to India, started up the company there, and now I'm back here. And I have seen that, the differences in thinking, in mindset, and I think that something can work out. There is a possibility, there is a scope. But I think one has to put minds together,
Right.
and one has to do something. But there is a possibility, and I think we must widen our horizon. And I'm just giving you my
I think it'd be great to
interview
have
as an example.
more young ambassadors like you. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ibrahim from African Forum, and I'm living here in Slovenia for almost 36 years.
I thought you were 36. You look 36.
Thank you for a compliment. So I just want to, if you allowed me, to say thank you for the organizer to invite me. For the first time, I have the courage to take the microphone. This is an exercise. If I do some mistake, please apologize.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that one of the panelists mentioned the transfer of technology from Europe. I think the transfer of technology is two-way path. As some panelists say, Europe have a lot to learn from other countries, from India and from Africa. And this is very important because maybe Europeans, they're sleeping, but they have to wake up because the world is going faster than they think. So I think all of us, we have to have our courage and contribute to the change. Because if the transfer technology go in two ways, with always stakeholders, not only economists and politics.
Right.
We can make the change in the world and in a better way. This is my point of view, and I have just one question. Did India do business with Africa?
Yes, absolutely. We can have a separate panel for this on, by the way, India-Africa Forum Summit is happening in the first week of December. You must come from Slovenia. Any other thoughts? We have about 5 minutes left, so we need to wrap up quickly. But before I take more questions, I'd like to request all the panelists that as a part of our summing up, I'd request all of you to give us one good, constructive idea on how to bring Indian and Southeast Asian, European companies together. So I leave you with a thought. Sir, no, but I'm just requesting the panelists to come up with a thought. You have a few seconds to think about it. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Okay, as the ambassador of Slovenia to India asked me to speak, and so I will.
Was that a threat or was that?
My name? No, that was not a threat. It was a pleasure. She was kind enough to inaugurate our factory right after she came to India. So it was just done by her and Foreign Minister of Slovenia last November, if I'm not wrong. And
could you describe your company and what you do? Yeah.
We have the partnership.
Okay, sure. Sorry, I didn't realize that. But
I tell you what we do in India. So I tell you what we do in India. You know, we do in India, we do mostly the equipment for improving the efficiency and monitoring the solar power plants. And we're also doing the energy storage systems and smart energy management systems. And you know that India needs a lot of energy and needs a lot of technology. So, but I'm not talking about this. I will tell you something about my experience. You know, when you go to a new country, you always expect something. Forget what you expect. And you come there.
You're saying that in a positive way.
And you come there. And you learn about the country and forget what you have learned because it will take time. It will take time to understand, maybe, what's going on. And you need to be patient. Somebody was talking about 400 days before you do the business. Yes, you need a lot of time. And you need to learn the local things. But, of course, India is also a lot of fun, a lot of opportunity, a lot of nice people, a lot of culture. So don't go to India just to do the business. the business will come. Go to enjoy the place, go to see the country, and learn. He bought me a book. It's called Jugaad. Read this book.
Right.
Thank you.
It's called Jugaad. It's Jugaad technology. And for my friends who don't know, Jugaad technology is basically just, it's in a very negative way, it's like chewing gum technology. You just put things together to make sure they work. But the objective is to make so that things work. A better way to describe it is frugal engineering, which is to bring the basic products together, again, to deliver what the need is. Sir.
Never believe an Indian describing Jugaad.
Thank you.
Ask them to show you something about Jugaad, you know?
Excellent. We must meet in New Delhi when you're there and we discuss this. Any other questions and thoughts?
Richter.
You have a question? Okay.
We have industry experts from both India and Slovenia, and I'd really like if you can identify maybe one or two sectors each in which you think your country and India can collaborate, or either way.
Yep, that's a good thought for the summary as well.
Because, yeah.
One sector.
Yes, Madam, can we have the mic here, please?
Mirjana Berko from Incon. We have a company in India that we work with, actually more on the business consulting, and I talked with my business partner there what could be the cooperation between India and Slovenia, because he has been here many times. And this March, we, together with Miha, we organized a meeting, a sort of trip for 20 young managers to India. We organized one-to-one meetings with the companies that they work with, and I hope that there will be something coming out of that. We are following what is going on. But to answer maybe your question, what we have been discussing, the area where there's just 0.5% of Slovene exports, or even less than that, in this 5 months of this year, is exported to India. So of Slovenian exports, so this is really, really like 28 million, which is a minor figure. And this is something that there is a big opportunity to improve that number. And there was something said today about the airport, the air connections, and I fully agree with that, because Slovenia has really good opportunities to develop tourism with India. There is vacation, I think in India is from March till June, and there are no really good connections here to come here, and if that would happen, the experience from the tourist industries are if the flight connections are off, then the occupancy goes down dramatically. And tourism from March to June here is, I think all the rooms are under-occupied. So that could be one of the areas which could, just by improving the air connections, could improve very quickly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to now come to the end of our session, and I'm going to request all the panelists to close with maybe just a 30-second statement on what they think must be done, perhaps identify an industry, or perhaps identify an action which can be recommended to both governments and chambers of commerce on both sides to go forward. So I'll begin with you.
So I would be very brief. It was mentioned direct flight connection. I apologize. I don't know how is the relation between Slovenia and India, but Czech India, we have a visa obligation. And it takes a lot of time because it's necessary to write invitation letter, to put application, and with our intervene, it takes not days, but sometimes weeks. So this is one proposal, how to improve connections. And the second one is that Indian company for concrete project still not accept the direct bank guarantees from European bank. It's necessary to issue the contra guarantee from Czech or from Slovenian bank to Indian bank, right. And Indian bank will issue. So to make more simple also this process.
Mrs. Jiska, very practical suggestions. Thank you very much. Mr. Kapuria.
I'm going to thank COS for giving me this sound bite, which I think each one of you will enjoy. We had a discussion yesterday, and he has already put together a paper, and actionable. Yeah, he calls it to combine the Indian culture, Indian tradition, and Indian business incubator to boost cooperation. And the infrastructure is already available in the Center of Indian Culture, and that's the Institute of Indiology in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which was referred to as the Justice referred to in a way that the International Center for Public Sector Units. So to convert that into this, and the interesting part is that, and you can know that how embedded he is not into yoga but also into the Indian culture. He calls it the Sangam. He calls it the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati, which is exactly this, the Indian culture, Indian tradition and Indian business. And this will incubate the interest on either side, maybe start from 30,000 feet, but that's also required.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Hirba.
I have two proposals because I will ask for only two proposals.
You can give three.
First of all, first is very practical. I would like to ask our government to modernize the visa regime, not maybe to abandon it because European system is very rigid, but to modernize it. It's completely. I couldn't imagine that someone, I don't know, from the south of India, from Goa, would like to come as a tourist to Slovenia. It's very horrible. And with tourism in both ways, of course, culture is then much more closer to each other, and also the habits and so on. So I think that tourism could be a first step stimulating cooperation between both countries. And second, of course, is promotion. It has been said that in India, very few people has an idea what Slovenia means. And I have to admit that also in Slovenia, also among business people in business community, very few businessmen has an idea how to make business in India, how to enter to India. So I think that both sides could make a lot if we invest more into promotion of not only economies, but also of our culture and conditions in which we are living at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our Ambassador Chakravarti is here, and I'm sure he would agree if I say that, announce that India has announced visa on arrival for everybody in the world except 6 countries, and that should be ready by end of this year, which means that for Europeans who I know face a lot of problems in getting an Indian visa, those issues would go away. So at least on one side, I can assure you that things should improve a lot.
Issues it in 24 hours anyway.
Sir.
Well, you see, the key factor about this meeting today, we haven't come to any practical solution how to resolve these problems. We have been attending so many conferences, so many meetings. End of the day, we have to find what are the key solutions. Point 1, Indo-EU trade agreements. Now, Indo-EU trade agreement should be the key point.
The FTA.
FTA.
Right.
Which has not happened, which we have been talking about it all the time.
Now, for 8 years, I think we've been talking about it.
Exactly. So that's the one point we should get into it. Second is the financial resources. How do you get into financial resources? You want to make a tourism increase, you want to have planes, you have to go around the things. Whether it is economical, why would the tourist come here? There should be some attraction. There should be some sort of programs why people go to Disneyland or why people go to other areas or something or the other. Unless a proper program is not set from the EU countries. And then the cost of the EU bank, you know, the European banks, they have kept the money aside. They should allocate a project that Indo-EU trade which is going to take place in a big way. We need these items, we need these items, this is the budget, has to be planned, and this is how we should get into the programs of it. Take youngsters. Gentleman said the boy of 35 years old sitting at home doing nothing. It is not his fault. It is the fault of the Slovenian business people. They should bring those young boys, give them work. Not that they have to be paid for it. You can pay half time. Give them half the day work. The Slovenian industrialists which are going on in a big way, each industrial house should have an obligation, commitment to their own community, that they should give them jobs, to give them a training program, give them some 2 times a week, 3 times a week of work, so that every industry can able to get them. Because in India, you don't find young people. They have innovation ideas, they have creations. The boy will never sit home idle. No. He will go out, he will try to work, whether he's in the village, or whether he's in the town, or whether he's in the city. So you have to train those youngsters to bring them and give them some sort of innovative ideas,
and
innovative entrepreneurship.
They can be sent to India as well.
Exactly. You see, exactly. For the tourism, for the sake of something. So you see, the problem is that innovation ideas, innovative thoughts, and entrepreneurship is the key point of life. You know, so I would say that today the practical solutions. Doctor comes up with a solution. He says, okay, this patient is you need a kidney patient. He's a heart patient. He's a liver patient. What is the disease over here? Unless you don't analyze. And who can do this? The 5 people. Deloitte & Touche, KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, McKinsey, all these people. You can use them. Use their think tank. And they give you a framework and give the structure for you and tell you, okay, this is how you should go at it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. This is my...
Mr. Orzan?
So, only suggestion for you.
Two ideas which you think must be done.
I like the idea to send some young Europeans to India to learn entrepreneurship.
Right. Entrepreneurship.
Yes. Before my suggestion, I have a nice note. I have a friend from India, and he sent me a message. He was supposed to send me, I will send you some notes for your panel. Okay, thank you, I said the other day. And now, just before I start the panel, I receive a message here, say, when is starting your panel? Say, already started. He said, so I thought that I'm the Italian, the slow one, but also Indian, similar. Anyway.
You should change your friends.
But slow and steady wins.
So regarding Indian companies in Europe, in Southern and Eastern Europe, so there are 2 possibilities. One, there are countries, they're all small countries, first of all. There are countries that are already in European Union, and those who probably slowly in the next year they may enter. So the choice is between entering a more expensive place where making production, but having access to a big number, to 500,000 people market, or for re-export, I would choose, in fact, the other countries. We have a lower cost, and usually they are more open to foreign investment and with less difficult rules.
Right.
But in any case, it's important to find, I think, a local partner.
Right.
A local partner, European company, generally they have experience in joint ventures, and in this case, the companies can take the best of both worlds and combine together. So this is my suggestion.
Thank you. Mr. Verma, 30 seconds for you.
Yeah. I think just to increase the visibility between the 2 countries, we need to participate more in business-to-business meetings, in trade fairs, things like that. And I think that's the way it's going to work out. Eventually, we'll come into, other things from that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, I'd like to close the session. Thank you for your very vibrant participation. I think the fundamental summary is meet each other, travel to each other's countries, and then solutions will appear. Thank you very much, and an applause for the panelists.